We have won the Spanish Civil War. We have 15 elite infantry divisions. We have a respectable civilian economy. We have a decent military economy going on right there. And we're about ready to take full control of the peninsula. Yeah boy, anarchists up in the house. But first, if you like these guides, hit that like button, subscribe for more of this content, and ring the bell to be notified whenever I upload more of it. Now, on to the guide. Hey folks, Peter Steele here, back with another guide for Hearts of Iron 4. And today I'm bringing you a guide on how to win the Spanish Civil War as Anarchist Spain. So, Spain. Let's start by getting our affairs in order. Research is pretty bog standard here. You go with the electrical engineering and your basic production and construction. As for production, infantry equipment. All our spare factories for now will go into infantry equipment. We will need a lot of guns to supply our troops. We don't use that much towed artillery or support equipment, so for now just focus on guns. Construction is simple. Military factories. And where are we going to place these military factories? We're going to put them in Catalonia and Eastern Aragon. These two regions are where the Anarchist Uprising is guaranteed to occur. And it's definitely a good idea to put your industrial base in an area that you're guaranteed to hold throughout the entire game, unless you suck and you lose. So there's that. Now, for the army, can't really do much with the army. See, we do have a sizable one. 17 divisions. But these 17 divisions suffer from military disloyalty, which means we cannot train new ones, we cannot disband these units or edit their unit templates. So there's not much this army can do for you. Now what I do like to do with this army is just park it over in Africa, and they can all be the army of Africa. Just get them out of our hair. Aircraft, just group them up near Madrid and set them to exercising. The Navy, gather this up and park it in the port near Murcia. This is one of your biggest ports, and you can use this as a place to quickly rush your navy out at the start of the Civil War to try and intercept the army of Africa that is going to be leaving from these ports. Now, it's a bit hit and miss. You're not guaranteed to get them with your convoy raiding, but if you do, it's a very nice way of denying the nationalists some more troops. The Civil War is hard enough as it is, and, well, any little benefit helps. And finally, our national focuses. We will be rushing for the Popular Front, and along this line all the way down to Disband the Army. This is the one we want. This will make sure that the nationalists get fewer troops, both out of the army that exists and of the event-spawned Army of Africa. Plus, the portion of the army that remains loyal to us, that's 80% of the army we have right now, they will stay with us. But we will disband these units, and all of that equipment is going to go back into the stockpile, meaning we can immediately recruit good divisions out of that equipment and manpower. So reaching Disband the Army is very important to have a good chance of winning this as either the regular Republicans, the Communists, or, in our case, the Anarchists. So we'll take the Popular Front, followed by Secure the Guardia Civil. Why the Guardia Civil? It's simple. This gives you 10 units, while the Guardia de Asalto gives you 5 units. These 5 units are of higher quality, but we just want more units to man the front lines. So the Guardia Civil it is. There we go. All that's left now is to set the game to max speed, and let's head for those elections. And there we go. The Popular Front is done, and we'll be picking Secure the Guardia Civil for reasons I explained earlier. Here we go. The Spanish election of 1936 has fired. Only through the extinguishing of fascism can Spain survive. Let's click through that, and you'll see here there's a military plot forming. This is the start of the Spanish Civil War. We want to keep this at bay by constantly using concessions to the left and political arrest whenever these are available. Concessions to the left has some bonuses, mostly political power gain. I'm gonna hit that. Political arrest gives you straight up 25 political power upon completion. It is very important that we keep using these decisions back to back. Otherwise, we will not have enough time before the military plot fires to be able to finish Disband the Army. Because every one of these focuses takes 70 days. So we must maximize the time it takes for the military plot to fire. Also, keep note of what the enemy is doing here. They are influencing garrisons, which means we have to spend some political power to counter this, but never prioritize the garrisons over these decisions. If you have to make a choice, always take a decision to extend the timer on the military plot. It's far more important that we hit Disband the Army than it is to contest as many garrisons as possible. Secondly, when you see the enemy is starting a Primo de Rivera speech, make sure you have political power banked up, because you will take a 25 political power hit when their focus or their decision finishes, and you will immediately want to fire imprisonment for Primo de Rivera and just removing that from the game. And it's also a cheap one. It only takes 20 political power, but you can only use this one once they've done a speech. So to recap, prioritize these decisions to keep them going back to back, and as a secondary concern, contest garrisons wherever it's strategically beneficial. Contest them in a way that, one, they don't have full control of the region, and two, that the distribution of garrisons and zones means you keep your front lines as short as possible. Research-wise, we are going to keep hitting the industry first. Why? We don't want any of these weapons and equipment or artillery research to be done until after the Civil War fires. If you get research done before the Civil War, both sides of the conflict will have access to the research. If you finish the research after the Civil War event fires, only you will have access to it. So that would give us a small bonus. And just keep hitting these focuses back to back. If you see that the AI is performing a political assassination, you can afford to let your political power drop a little lower, because you will be able to execute a political arrest afterwards. That only takes 10 political power. So this is just another thing you need to keep an eye on. As for industry, dispersed here as well. Dispersed is simply the best for this country. And as I said, just keep rushing down this. This is very linear. There's only one way to go. You can see here, Primo de Rivera's speech is being performed. So make sure we have political power banked, so we can immediately imprison Primo de Rivera after he finishes. And the nationalists have secured the northern garrisons as well. Don't bother contesting these, it costs too much political power. Just focus on keeping them tied down here in the south, or potentially here in the north. That all of these areas, they don't have the political power to contest those. As more military factories start being built, consider putting one more in artillery and one more in support equipment, and the rest in basic infantry equipment. There we go. They finished their speech, and we can immediately go and imprison Primo de Rivera. Just a few more focuses and we'll be out of here. 70 days for this one, 70 days for the next one. It's going to be tight, but just keep hitting these decisions. Now with this research finishing, we can start doing infantry equipment. 114 days. Now we look at our focuses. There are about 40-ish days left on this one, and then 70 on the next. So give or take a few days, this should finish after we start the Civil War. There will be times that you don't have access to the political arrest or concessions to the left. In those cases, I suggest securing leader loyalty, giving you another general that is loyal to your cause. But always pick one, always keep moving forward. And on to Disband the Army. If we can extend this deadline up to 70 days, we'll have control of the Civil War, and we will be in a much better position when it finally happens. So if nothing strange happens now, we should have control of this. It takes 33 days for this military plot to fire, but we will disband the army in 25 days. So we're a little bit ahead of time. We're in an excellent position. Once we finish Disband the Army, the civil war will trigger without the military plot firing. The army will no longer be cut 50-50 for each side. No. The nationalists will only get 20%, and the 80% that remains loyal to us will be disbanded, and we will have access to that equipment and that manpower in the stockpile, and we can use that to immediately recruit new divisions that we can throw into the fight that are much better than anything the event spawn troops can muster. There we go. The Spanish Civil War fired because we completed Disband the Army. You have three options here. You go with the Republicans, you go with the Communists, or here we are, the Regional Defense Council of Aragon, the Anarchist faction. Now that the war has started, take stock of the front lines and troop distribution. We're going to be in for an intense session of micromanagement. But first, let's ramp this up to war economy, because we are going to be needing it. As for focuses, we're going to go with arm the people, followed by appropriate the means of production so we can continue down our tree as the anarchists. Now to organize our front lines up to the north here. These are fairly weak positions. We can either dig in or choose to withdraw those units. And the first things we're going to do is send out our navy and convoy raid. And who knows, we might be able to catch some of these units that they're going to be moving in from Africa. As for the rest, this is very intense in terms of micromanagement. We want to keep engaging the units that are on the front lines. And units that are not immediately close to a nationalist division are just going to be pushing in as much as possible. So these units will be fighting to keep the enemy busy, to just continuously attack them. And the other units are just going to move and try and create opportunities for encirclements to cut off as much of the nationalist army as possible. When you're assigning generals, take a good look at the loyalties. You don't want to assign someone with Republican loyalties. Maybe also avoid Stalinist loyalties. The ones you have, the ones you're going to want to recruit will have no loyalty assigned here. Or potentially the anti-Stalinist ones. These guys also stick with you. And take the speed way down, because this is going to be very intense. We can also immediately recruit about a dozen of these divisions. Standard infantry divisions, and we're going to be using them as our spearheads moving forward. Just recruit these and set them to a high priority. You can only afford one run of them, so let's rush them out the door. As you can see, we've already created a few encirclements here. We've also managed to cut the nationalist territories in half, so good start all round. Up to the north, focus on defending what we can defend, don't spread the lines too much. This will also draw a lot of nationalist attentions to the north. When planning your offensives, try and pick positions that will be advantageous to, either to clean up pockets quickly or to create breaks in the enemy lines. I'll go for Burgos here. Make liberal use of your command power to initiate these last stand orders to make sure your lines don't buckle. Now what I'm going to try here, in this case, is cut off this part of the nationalist army by using those freshly recruited infantry divisions of significantly higher quality than whatever junk the nationalists have, to push through to the north, link up our lines, and by doing so we'll cut off this half of the army. You can see the regular infantry divisions make mincemeat out of these garbage raquetes the nationalist field. And through aggressively pushing at the narrowest point of the line, we've managed to encircle quite a few Spanish divisions here. Now let's reorganize our lines so they make a little more sense. With Arm the People done, you can take appropriate the means of production. If your stockpile allows, try and keep recruiting a few divisions. These good infantry divisions, they'll really help you out. As you can see, the war against the nationalists is progressing quite nicely. It's all a matter of micromanaging your units, creating smaller or larger encirclements, and just keeping things orderly. For our next investment of political power, we are going to move up to limited conscription, get some more manpower out in the field. And with appropriate the means of production done, we're going to head down the maximum concession, because this will add 70 days to impending government crackdown, which is this political event that will cause the Anarchist Uprising. So we want to extend this a little bit, give us more time to prepare, so the maximum concession comes first. And with every one of these encirclements, the nationalists get weaker and we get an ever more beneficial position. With the maximum concession completed, we can start and seize the gold reserves, opening the way to the Masters of our Fate focus, which will cause the Anarchist Uprising when we choose. But first, seize the gold reserves.
A few moments later.
With seize the gold reserves done, we can now move on to Masters of our Own Fate, causing the Uprising. However, as you can see, we have 106 days left before the event triggers, so we can make use of that time by doing either one long focus, such as autogestion, or two short ones, foreign arm purchases and seize public transport. I suggest going with the short ones, giving you more bang for your buck, and foreign arms purchases first, allowing us to use political power to get some equipment, and we can always use more equipment. With foreign arms purchases done, we can now move to seize public transport, giving us a 15% bonus to division speed, and then we will follow up with Masters of Our Own Fate, which would take a total of 70 days, meaning we can start our uprising one day before the impending government crackdown. And let's make use of our political power to purchase some equipment. I suggest going with the basics of artillery equipment, infantry equipment, and support equipment. If you have some left over, you can always buy some aircraft as well. And through all these small encirclements, we're just cutting the nationalist units to shreds. You see they're very weak, low equipment, low organization. We are pushing them into the corner here. There we go, we've seized public transport, and let's get ready to become masters of our own fate and start our Anarchist Uprising. And keep buying artillery equipment as long as the game will let you. Artillery takes the longest to produce. And once we have a healthy stockpile, we can edit our infantry division, add 2 artillery battalions to it, giving us a nice 20 combat with division. But we will need some artillery for that. There we go, masters of our own fate and the government crackdown have occurred, and we have gone to war with Republicans. As you can see, Spain is now an absolute mess. We will have to move very quickly to secure our positions and to make sure we don't get overrun, so let's get right on that. As for focuses, I suggest going with international brigades, giving us a nice chunk of manpower. And with the Carlist Uprising, the mess just got a little bit bigger. Carlist should not be much of a bother to clean up, and you can almost forget about this corner. This is a stabilized front. We must focus now on containing the Republicans. And with international brigades finished, we can move on and head for Agrarian Collectivization, fewer consumer goods.
A few moments later.
And with Agrarian Collectivization done, we can get ourselves some more recruitable pop by Mujeres Libres. You'll still want to keep an eye out for the Russian volunteer divisions. They are very strong against your weaker divisions, so it may be required to still use some last stand orders to keep your lines intact. And with Mujeres Libres done, we can head down towards either shared burdens or autogestion, some more factory output or more consumer goods. Well, fewer consumer goods. I suggest going with autogestion because that unlocks the rest of the tree, or you can always come back to this one later. And after autogestion, on to collectivization and workers' control, giving us more factory output. Also consider, if you have the troops to spare, just launch a very small naval invasion of North Africa. Just get rid of this nationalist stronghold here. They should not have any troops there. That should all be bottled up on the mainland. And that knocks the Republic out of the game. Take all their stuff, You can just move the entire army to the nationalist side and finish this up as well. You should have won the game by now. And on to All Must Bear the Torch, setting us to a collectivized society, an anarchist society. And that's the nationalists knocked out. And it's just this small little Carlist holding out here. And with that last Carlist holdout, we have won the Spanish Civil War as the anarchists by October 1938. The war has ended. There we go. We have come out of the Spanish Civil War with a few factories. We have a decent production going on. We have a respectable military that we can now use to invade Portugal via our upcoming focuses on this side, the Portuguese anarchism, which will allow us to head for the Regional Defense Council of Iberia, fully unifying the peninsula. But with that, our guide has come to an end. At this point of the game, you can do whatever you want, really. After you unify Iberia, you can either stab the French in the back, meddle with Germany, hit the Italians. It's really up to you from this point. The anarchists are very strong. They have a good snowball effect going on. They keep getting stronger. So, there you have it. If you like this video, leave a like. Consider subscribing for more of these guides and other content. If you disliked the video, tell me why in the comments. Always looking for feedback. And I hope to see you in the future for more of this lovely content. Goodbye.